Welcome to Divcasts from University of Chicago Divinity School. For more of our podcasts and information about our terms of use, please see our website, divinity.uchicago.edu/podcasts.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Wednesday lunch here at the Divinity School.
Thank you.
Hi. What can you do? I'm Karen Ryan. I'm the Director of Communications here and the organizer of the series, so it's my pleasure to welcome you all here today. Before we get started, I want to do our usual housekeeping. Our head chef today is Alex. So our crew makes this meal from scratch right here, and we do ask that in return for this delicious and very inexpensive meal, you bust your own stations. So if you could put your garbage into the garbage, and do we have a compost bin? And put your leftovers into the compost and your silverware into the soapy vat. That helps us out. Are there any community announcements today? No? Sunil? Oh, sorry. Sunil needs a second.
In 2 weeks, on June 3rd, there will be a special Wednesday lunch for Nepal. We'll be cooking in a similar way as every Wednesday lunch, but we'll be cooking some Nepali food, and all the proceeds we'll raise will go to earthquake relief in Nepal. We'll have some Himalayan music, live Himalayan music here. We'll have some improvised acting performance, some reflection from faculty and some community members. So we'd love everybody to come and join us and be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. So the Wednesday lunch crew are donating. They're not getting paid for that lunch, and so it's open to all. It's open to everybody. Please join us. It's going to be really good. So that's going to be on June 3rd. Is that the right date? That's on June 3rd, and that's going to be our last lunch, but our last regular lunch is next week, and it's going to be our annual barbecue. So you may or may not have noticed that we don't have a courtyard right now. So what we've done is we're going to, if the weather is okay, we're going to be over here in Harper Courtyard, but probably serving family style in here. So if you are not familiar with our last lunch, it's your one chance of the year to eat meat at lunch, but you have to let us know that you want meat. Otherwise, you just have to take your chances with the veggie option. So when you RSVP, just make sure to put down that you want meat, or if you want the veggie option, let us know that too. That's helpful. Was that enough, Blair, or was that going to add anything else? Where's Blair?
That's good. That's good.
Where's Blair?
She had to run.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay. Well, then I'm just going to introduce our last speaking guest of the quarter, of the year. Wow, that went quickly. I'm really happy to be able to introduce him. He was supposed to be with us earlier in the quarter and couldn't make it, but he's here today on our very last Speaking Wednesday lunch. So our guest today is Olatunji Oboi Reed, and he is the co-founder and president of Slow Roll Chicago, which is building an equitable, diverse bicycle culture in Chicago, transforming communities as we ride. He's also involved with groups such as Red Bike and Green and Southside Critical Mass, which are organized rides focusing on getting more people of color biking. He's an organizer and advocate in many venues for communities of color and low to moderate income communities throughout Chicago to have access to the health, economic, and social benefits of cycling. I cycled here today. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Reed.
Thank you, Taryn. I appreciate the invitation to join you all today. It's an honor to be at the University of Chicago and share a little bit about our movement. I'm a native Southside. I grew up not too far from here, and I have a very fond place in my heart for Hyde Park. My father loves this neighborhood. He comes here all the time, every day. He plays chess. Y'all probably see him out playing chess. So first I want to introduce my co-founder, Jamal Julian. There's nobody I would rather do this work with than Jamal. We grew up together. We met in 4th grade. We've been friends ever since. He's seen me literally at my worst and at my best, and he's always had my back and supported me throughout the years. So it's an honor and a pleasure to do this work with my brother. Thank you, Jamal. All right. So today I want to talk about a secret. The secret to bicycle alchemy. The secret to how to use bikes as a vehicle for social change. It's a well-guarded secret, so I need everybody to agree. You won't take it outside this room. You have to keep it between us, all right? Nobody else can know. All right, so first a little bit of a background. Slow Road is a global movement. It was founded in Detroit in 2010. Now it's all over the world, including London, Sweden, Iraq, several cities in the U.S., Chicago, of course, Detroit, Buffalo, Cleveland, D.C., and I'm sure I'm forgetting some. When it was started by 2 gentlemen, Mike McCool and Jason Hall. They just wanted to ride every week, every Monday night, and just get people to come and ride in the city of Detroit. As we all know, Detroit has a lot of challenges, so it was important for them to begin to sort of get people back into the center of Detroit and see Detroit in a brand new light. They started in 2010. 2 people was on the first ride. It grew slowly, over a few months. Eventually got into the hundreds. So remember, we were talking about a weekly ride every Monday night. Eventually grew into the hundreds every Monday night. And after a couple years, something caught in Detroit, and it just sort of caught fire. And it started to grow exponentially, and it got into the thousands. And while they don't know precisely why it sort of caught on in Detroit, the understanding or the expectation is that there was a pent-up demand to create community in Detroit. And it just happened that people sort of latched onto this idea of a community bike ride as a way to socialize people, as a way to connect with people. And as those rides kept going, people gravitated to it, and it grew into the thousands. And then Apple came knocking. And Apple featured Slow Road Detroit in an international TV commercial marketing campaign. And that took Detroit to a whole nother level. So at the end of their season last year, they had 5,000 people on a ride. And that was about their average towards the end of the season. Upwards of 4,000 or 5,000 people riding every Monday night. And this is amazing for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's Detroit. With all of the challenges that Detroit has, they were still able to create a movement like a rose growing through the concrete. Slow Road Detroit sort of showed the way, showed the world, showed the country how to use bikes as a vehicle for social change. Prior to Slow Road Detroit, nobody talked about Detroit as a bike-friendly city. Nobody talked about Detroit as having the infrastructure that could support, thousands of people riding around Detroit. Prior to 4 or 5 years ago, nobody even talked about Chicago. It was always the West Coast cities, Seattle, San Francisco, Portland. Chicago did a lot in a very short amount of time. Chicago, New York, cities like that started to climb up the list. But Detroit, without the infrastructure, without what we would consider a bicycle culture in that city, created this movement that all of us now are looking to as inspiration. And that just inspired us. Jamal and I, we saw Slow Road Detroit through our computer screens. We were watching it on Facebook. Some kind of way we both found out about it at the same time. We were at my place. He's trying to show me the video. I'm trying to show him the video. And there's a video of, it was Slow Road Detroit, and it was a group of brothers They have a very interesting eclectic bike culture in Detroit. So there's this group, a club, and they got on colors, like a motorcycle club. So they're riding bicycles, but they got on colors. And it's probably about 20 of them. It's late, so it's a little dark out, and they got all these lights on their bike, and they're riding old school cruisers, and it's all of them riding together as a part of this huge group of, Slow Road Detroit. And what was interesting, the camera was trained on this club that was riding together, and there was a group of young people across the street, and they were riding, just watching the club. They were just so amazed at what they were seeing, just watching this club with these lit up bikes and the club colors and the custom cruisers. It was just a nice sight to see. And we felt the energy, we felt the spirit and the diversity come through those computer screens. And we wanted to bring that same energy, spirit, and diversity to Chicago. We wanted to bring the movement to Chicago. So we reached out to Slow Road Detroit. They quickly embraced us and, asked us, to figure out a way to make it happen. We started a conversation with them. We thought it would happen overnight. We thought we could just call them and say, we want to bring it to Chicago. And they say, yeah, go do it. You got a charter, you got a chapter. It took a little bit longer than we anticipated. We got a little frustrated because it was taking, probably, at that point, it was probably a couple months. We hadn't quite sealed the deal yet. And again, we have my place on the computer, and we see this Apple commercial. We didn't know anything about it. We just saw it on Facebook. We watched it, we were blown away. We do a little bit more digging, and we find out one of the founders of Slow Road Detroit is touring the country, speaking at Apple stores. And 2 days later, he was going to be in Chicago at the Apple store on Michigan Avenue. We went. We met him in person. The next day, we had a chapter. When Jamal and I, thought about why we wanted to bring Slow Road Detroit here, we wanted to create a structure that allowed us to ensure that our movement, our organization, the activity of cycling, is in fact a vehicle for social change, that it is a tool for transformation. So it was important for us to be very explicit about our mission. Our mission is to connect a diverse group of people to utilize bikes and the activity of cycling to transform lives and improve community by organizing community bicycle rides. Our vision is equal bike usage across the city of Chicago with respect to race, income, and geography. We envision bikes as a form of transportation that can contribute to improving health, creating jobs, and reducing violence. Our target audience always has been, always will be, people of color, low to moderate income people, South Side and West Side. That said, we're the most proud of our diversity. We have an incredible racial diversity that comes out and rides with us, income diversity of people that come out and ride with us, different parts of the city, north side, south side, west side, suburbs versus Chicago. The diversity is one of the things that we're the most proud of. However, we want to focus on people who don't ride. And in Chicago, the group of people who have a negative perception of bikes, who has the most barriers to hopping on a bike and using it as a form of transportation, is people of color, low to moderate income communities, mostly South Side and West Side, because these are the neighborhoods that need the most bicycle love right now. So we have a threefold strategy at our organization. One is our signature ride series. So when we started last year, we rode monthly. It was a way to sort of get our feet wet, get some lessons learned, build up our team. We started in September of last year. We're still relatively new. So September of last year, we did 3 months riding monthly, every third Saturday. We wanted to ride on a more frequent basis. We wanted to connect with more neighborhoods, more organizations, more people. So we decided to follow the Slow Road Detroit model and ride every Wednesday evening. They ride every Monday, we ride every Wednesday. Our season is April through October. So our signature ride series is every Wednesday night. All of our rides are community-based, hosted in partnership with community organizations. We never do a ride and just show up in a neighborhood. We always start a conversation with an organization or an institution in the neighborhood and ask them to partner with us. We sit down with that organization, and sometimes it's multiple organizations, to develop the ride, the concept, the plan, the route, the theme together, so that the organization, the people in the neighborhood feel a sense of ownership in the ride. It's just not people showing up talking about let's ride bikes. No, it's the neighborhood saying we are going to ride bikes, and we do it together. It's important for us to have that sense of ownership and sense of connection to people who live in the neighborhood. It's also important that every ride tells a story. So all of our rides have a title, all of our rides have a theme, and we use the ride to tell the story of whatever the theme is. So the routes that we create tell a story. The organizations that we work with are all part of this planning process to ensure that our ride is telling a story. And we always want to communicate that while we're riding and while we're with the community in this community bicycle ride. So Signature Ride Series, that's our first, that's our primary thrust as an organization, is that Signature Ride Series every Monday night. Always community-based, always hosted with community partners. Number 2, youth and family programs. So this is something that we're sort of starting to get into now. Last year, Jamal created a youth racing team to bring young people, together to participate in the activity of cycling as a racer, which is incredible because most of the young people that we work with just aren't all that interested in cycling. And the team that he started is a cyclocross team, so they race in the cold. Another reason not to ride a bike. He has some young people together, and we're just now starting this youth cyclocross team. We're in the process of writing some grants. We recently won some grants. We want to create an advocacy project in Inglewood and back in the yards around creating bicycle infrastructure in those neighborhoods so young people at schools can ride their bikes safely to school, and also advocating for more funding, getting young people to organize and advocate for more funding for the Safe Routes to School program statewide. We just won a grant to implement a program for high school students in Pullman to connect them with the activity of cycling and outdoor recreational activities. So this youth and family programs for us is a way to work more intensely with young people and families. We see a lot of people all over the city on that Wednesday night ride. This is a way to make sure that we're connecting with people on a regular basis and really using bikes and the activity of cycling to do community organizing, skill building, leadership development, all of those skills that we want young people to achieve. We use bikes as sort of a mechanism to connect with young people. So again, Signature Ride Series number 1, youth and family programs number 2, and number 3 is bicycle advocacy. So we advocate on behalf of our target audience, people of color, low to moderate income, South Side and West Side, to the city and to the state. We advocate for 3 things. One is equity. Equitable distribution of bicycle resources in Chicago. I'll come back to the concept of equity. That's one that we advocate for. We also advocate for community ownership of the planning process that facilitates the infrastructure coming into our neighborhoods. Too often, the city's approach is just to plop some infrastructure down. People in the neighborhood don't know about it. They weren't involved in decision making. They weren't consulted. So when that infrastructure shows up, they're a little taken aback. They don't really care about it. They don't feel any sense of connection to it. And oftentimes, bicycle infrastructure in those neighborhoods don't go utilized. So we want the community to own the process of any infrastructure, any bicycle infrastructure that's coming to their neighborhood. They should be consulted. They should be making a decision on where it goes. There should be a thoughtful approach on behalf of the city and the state to think about how can we engage in a real deep way with people who live in neighborhoods about the decisions that affect them and their children and their neighbors. And then the third thing that we focus on in terms of advocacy is respect. Respect for community, respect for culture, and respect for history. So one of the things that makes Chicago beautiful is the unique neighborhoods, the culture that exists in our neighborhoods, the rich history in our neighborhoods. And we want the city and the state to approach every neighborhood with a healthy amount of respect for the neighborhood that they're going into. So we want that reflected in the language. We want that to be reflected in how they communicate with people. We want that to be reflected in the style of infrastructure that's implemented in neighborhoods. We don't believe that you can go into Inglewood and do precisely the same thing that you do in Humboldt Park. Two very different communities, very different histories, very different cultural dynamics. So we're advocating that the city really pay attention to a planning process, a level of engagement that respects culture, community, and history. So going back to this idea of equity, it's important for us because we believe equity is one of the elements that can help us achieve the transformation that we seek. We literally consider our organization, bicycles, and the activity of cycling as vehicles for social change. We see our work as a tool to transform lives and improve communities. And in order to do this, we need more people of color, more low to moderate income people riding bikes as a form of transportation. And equitable distribution of resources is one of the ways to get more people in our target audience to ride bikes. The city's approach is generally, we'll put bicycle infrastructure in the neighborhoods where people bike the most. And at the surface level, it kind of makes sense. You know, when you put in infrastructure, you want to ensure that people are going to use it, because that's what it's there for. We want to turn that on its head. Our position is equity is very different than equality. So equality is everybody gets the same. Equity is the people who need the most receive the most. And our position is you reflect that philosophy in how resources are distributed. So we want the lion's share of resources to go to neighborhoods where people bike the least. Because in order to get neighborhoods to reach equality in terms of bike mode share or bike usage with neighborhoods that bike the most, you got to do more in the neighborhoods where people bike the least. And the other part of it is we want the lion's share of resources to go to communities that stand to gain the most from the benefits of cycling. So there's 3 social factors that we look at and we want to have an impact on. Reducing violence, improving health, and creating jobs. So improving health is the easy one. People who ride bikes as a form of transportation can improve their health. Excellent. Mental and physical benefits to riding the bike as a form of transportation. That's easy. A lot of research out there, solid research that shows the value of improving health when people bike more. Creating jobs. There's ample evidence that shows that communities with higher bike mode share or higher bike usage has more retail. People are much more interested in short trip activity, which attracts retail because people, instead of hopping in a car and riding several miles away, they hop on a bike and they go a few blocks, and that attracts more retail. It also serves as a form of transportation for people to get to job centers, wherever those job centers may be. That's especially important for low to moderate income people because now we're talking about a form of healthy, active transportation. And over the long run, it's much more costly, much less costly than public transportation. So that's creating jobs. That's how we use our organization to create jobs. And the other thing about creating jobs is we bring people from outside of our neighborhoods to ride in these neighborhoods. So it's an opportunity for them to shop locally, to shop at businesses, to sort of see that the perception of the neighborhood doesn't match the reality of the neighborhood. There's beautiful organizations, there's beautiful architecture, there's beautiful people, and we want people to experience our neighborhoods and see it for what it really is versus just buying into the narrative that the media tells us about our neighborhood. And then so improving health, creating jobs, pretty easy. We believe, the more we ride, the more we can have an impact on those two. We also believe that we can have an impact on reducing violence through creating a more socially cohesive community. So when we ride as a community, you know, we connect with people that's riding with us. We connect with people that's watching from the side. You know, sometimes we ride 50, 100. Our season opener had probably about 200 people. So people are a little blown away, and they're watching. They're saying hello, and they're honking their horns, and they're whistling, and you know they're excited to see 100, 200 people rolling down their street. So it's a way to connect with people that's very different than being in a car surrounded by glass and steel, and you know you're just going straight ahead. That's what you're focused on. Our rides are social. It's all about community cohesion. It's all about connecting with each other and connecting with the people around us. And we believe that cohesion that we create can have an impact on reducing violence. And then, you know, tangentially, you know, economic development that happens in a neighborhood can contribute to reducing violence. Improving people's mental and physical health can have an impact on reducing violence. Making our communities more green, where people want to use the space in a different way, can have an impact on reducing violence. So these are the things that we want to contribute to again, transform lives and improve communities. So now, the secret. You all agree that you won't share this secret with anybody, correct? You cannot go outside of this room. All right, the secret. Our secret to bicycle alchemy. How do we use bikes, the activity of cycling, community bicycle rides to transform neighborhoods? The secret is there's no secret. It takes work. It takes work to achieve the goals and objectives that we have. And that's what we do. You know, this is not easy work. Taryn asked me, so what's your full-time day job? I said, UChicago. Our work in addressing the barriers of, you know, what stops people of color, low to moderate income people from riding bikes. One is perception. There is a perception that bikes are something that white people do, something that wealthy people do. It's something that little children do, or it's something that poor people do. So we want to change that perception. We want bikes to be cool. We want bikes to be fun and interesting. We want bikes to be a form of transportation. So helping to change the perception of bikes. And one of the ways we do it is by, you know, getting together 100 people, because 100 people riding down a side street is cool. Safety. So we think about safety in two ways. One is safety on a bike, and not wanting to get hit by a car or not wanting to get doored, and then safety in a community and feel like you may become victim to violence. Infrastructure is one element of helping people feel safe by having barrier-protected bike lanes, help more people who really don't ride to consider riding as a form of transportation on the street. And then safety in terms of not being a victim of violence just goes back to our work to sort of tell a new narrative about our neighborhoods. The perception oftentimes of our neighborhoods is that when you walk outside, you're dodging bullets. The reality is that the vast majority of people in our neighborhoods are not victims of violence. They go home, they leave out, children go to school, they come back home, and everybody's safe. However, even people in our neighborhoods buy into this narrative. The only block that's safe is the block that they live on. And they need to get out of their neighborhood as fast as possible. Well, we want to reclaim our neighborhoods. And so reclamation is a taking back. And that's one of the reasons we ride at night. So we've done rides with organizations, and they say, why at night? You know, are police involved? We get this question all the time. Are police involved? And we love the police being involved in our rides. It's not a requirement for us. We still want to ride at night. We're fortunate we haven't had any challenges with riding at night. We ride all over the city, south side and west side, and every neighborhood we've ever gone into, we've been embraced. So this idea that you can't be safe on a bike, we want to break that down. And then access to safe bicycle lanes on the street is important to us, and that's part of our advocacy work. Access to bikes. So many people in our neighborhoods, for a number of reasons, don't own bikes. Well, we, as much as we can, we created a fleet of loaner bikes. We work with Divi, Bike and Roll, community bike shops like Working Bikes, Blackstone Bikes, Westtown Bikes, other nonprofit organizations, so that we can have bikes available for people who don't own bikes. We do not want the barrier of not owning a bike to stop somebody from riding with us. So as much as possible, we bring bikes so that people have bikes to ride. Divi was a wonderful partner with us. They brought out bikes on 5 of our rides this year. One of our rides we did with a nonprofit on the west side called Breakthrough. They brought out 50 bikes. So it's those types of partnerships that's really important to us, so that even when people don't own a bike, they still have access to a bike for our ride. And the idea is that, once they experience these rides and see how rides can be social and fun and interesting and transformative, that they may consider riding with us more often, or they may even consider purchasing a bike themselves. And then the cost. So we know bikes for low to moderate income people can be expensive. So we want to expose low to moderate income people to some of the community bike shops where they can buy used bikes. It's a lot less expensive. And we're working right now on creating, manufacturing our own bikes and developing a bicycle library concept so that low to moderate income people can rent out a bike at low cost or no cost and have that bike to use for an extended period of time. So that's our way of addressing that cost barrier. And then health. So low to moderate income people of color, adversely impacted by healthcare disparities. People may not feel like they can ride a bike as a form of transportation, all the way to work, or all the way to the grocery store. So we do, social rides. We ride about 8 to 10 miles every week. It's a slow, sort of chill ride so that people who may have some healthcare challenges can potentially still ride with us, get a form of exercise in, see it as an inspiring, transformative activity, and maybe do it even more to the point where riding as a form of transportation becomes something that they're interested in. So our philosophical approach to our work, diversity, incredibly important for us. Radical inclusion. Everybody's welcome to ride with us, no matter where you live, no matter what kind of bike you ride, no matter what skin color you are, no matter what background you come from. Everybody is welcome to ride with us. We want to use our rides to create community. We want to, again, respect culture. And we want people that ride with us to feel free to express themselves. It's a very deliberate act to ensure that marginalized people feel safe and respected and protected in your space. It's not something that can be taken for granted. So the work that we do to ensure that people can express themselves is very important to us through their bikes. So people want to ride, neon colored bikes. They want to ride custom cruisers. They want to ride fixed gears. They want to ride BMX. Everybody's welcome. Everybody's respected. This work also means that as advocates, we're also partners. So we advocate to the city, Chicago Department of Transportation, Illinois Department of Transportation, the mayor, and we're also partners with the city. It's a tricky balancing act. We struggle with it a little bit. How do we be true to our roots as community organizers and advocates, and also stay at the table and help influence some of the decision making that is taking place about our neighborhoods? So we want to find that balance as advocates and partners. All of you are now a part of our family. Welcome to the Slow Road Chicago bicycle movement. Let's create, let's ride, let's build. Thank you.
We have about 10 minutes for Q&A.
Yes.
I totally want to come ride with you guys. It's awesome. I love how systematic your approach is and really integrating all sorts of different things, and that's just fantastic to hear that sort of thoughtfulness going into everything you're doing. I'm from a town, we have a lot of biking, and we have a program that I think is in many towns in the country where businesses will offer discounts to people who bike.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you're aware of any of that happening in Chicago, or if that's something that your organization is looking into and maybe it's new yet.
Yeah. I imagine that's taking place. I don't know of any specifically that's doing that. I know Chicago Bike Week is coming up, and there's an element of Chicago Bike Week, Bike to Work, like the Bike to Work Community Challenge. So maybe some of that going on. We would certainly be interested in that, though. Any incentive that people can have to ride bikes, anything that serves to sort of eradicate barriers is important to us.
And then my last question is, how do I find out about where you're meeting, where your rides are?
Indeed. So our website is, all right, cool. Our website is slowroadchicago.org. Our schedule is live on our website right now through the end of May. We post our rides on the website every month or so. So June rides will be posted soon. We ride tonight. May was dedicated to community bike shops. So we did Blackstone Bicycle Works first. We did Working Bikes. Tonight we're doing Westtown Bikes in Humboldt Park. And then the last Wednesday in May, next week, we want to do all together now ride. We're inviting all of the community bike shops, all of the regular retail bike shops to come and all ride together. That ride is going to start at La Katrina Cafe in Pilsen. So both of those rides tonight and next week is on the website.
Celebration of graduation.
Yes, and we also do another ride this month, Saturday, May 30th, with WTTW and Chicago Park District called Celebration of Graduation. We're going to be celebrating young people in our neighborhoods graduating from 8th grade and high school. And this is a ride to, sort of acknowledge their achievements. It's going to be a huge ride. It's going to be in Tooley Park on 90th and King Drive. A big ride and a festival with a lot of entertainment and activities in the park. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, and Chainlink.
What about Snapchat?
Yes.
So how do you get the community involved, and how do you get it rolling where you want to get your neighborhood and those that's in your community involved?
You mean how do other people in neighborhoods get involved with our organization?
Yeah, as a community.
Yeah, so this season is set. We have our full schedule. We know the organizations we're partnering with. We know where all of our rides are starting and ending. And for us, we just work with focus for us was just the neighborhoods that we wanted to connect to, organizations that we wanted to connect to. Depending on the neighborhood that you're in or other people may be in, we're probably going to do a ride that's either in that neighborhood or close to it. So as that schedule becomes released, as you see like the June, July, and August rides, anybody who lives in a neighborhood that's tangential or close or live in that same neighborhood that we're starting and ending that ride in, call us, because we'll love to partner. We want community partners to be a part of our process, planning the rides, developing the rides, all of that. Just to give you an idea, let's see, I know we're doing a ride at South Shore Culture Center, not too far from here. Should folks live over here and want to participate. We're doing a bunch of more Southside rides. So yeah, once that schedule gets released, you want to partner, feel free to call us. We don't have the capacity to add to our schedule. However, should somebody want to fit into a ride that we're already doing, you're more than welcome. I think the young lady here. Yes.
I have a question about Detroit. Did they see any businesses start as a result
Yes.
of biking? And do they go through like the same routes so people would have a reason to start a business there?
Sure. So Detroit is very unique, very different geography from Chicago, and they're getting thousands of people to come out every week. Anecdotally, they saw more people coming into the city of Detroit to open businesses, to purchase homes, to start up organizations, because there were all of these people coming into Detroit seeing it in a way for the first time, in a brand new light. Detroit has several routes that they do. They always start and end at a business, like a big bar or a restaurant. Like I said, Detroit is a very different city. We don't start and end at a lot of restaurants. However, Detroit does, and it's a way for those restaurants to introduce a lot of people to shopping at their establishment, and it becomes a form of economic development.
I would add that is part of the problem here in Chicago with respect to communities on the south and west side, is that we have a very difficult time finding business establishments to connect with, and so we find ourselves, sometimes using some of the same ones in recycling. Like in Bronzeville, there are a lot of new open shops that we could use, and we've done that before. But when you go outside of certain communities, it's really hard to find restaurants because of some of the divestment that has occurred in our city. We used to have very robust communities where you can shop in your community, you can go to the bar, you can go to the restaurant, but a lot of that has gone away now, and so it's a little bit more difficult for us.
Yep. Can you talk a little bit about the bike that you all are looking to develop and kind of what goes into this thinking about a low cost, low maintenance bike?
Sure. Well, Jamal and I are at odds a little bit about the culture of the bike. It's not necessarily low cost. It's really a premium bike because we want it to be a beautiful bike that we can retail, not for our target audience, just people who want to support our movement can buy this bike. The way we get our target audience on the bike is through the library concept, so that they don't have to buy the bike outright. No cost or low cost to actually just borrow the bike through the library, and we'll seek funding to help support that kind of organization. The bike is built by a manufacturer. We work with a manufacturer, bespoke manufacturer, a small one-man shop that builds custom bikes. We work together. The company is called Legacy Frameworks. The lead designer on the bike is Ishmael Adams. He works at Minimal Design, and he led the Chicago bike. Some of y'all may know that the Oregon Manifest bicycle competition. It was a design competition. So he led the design of the Chicago bike. It's a beautiful bike. I can show you some pictures. It has a belt drive instead of a chain. Very low maintenance. It has disc brakes instead of regular brakes. It's a very beautiful design. We wanted something beautiful. That's one of the barriers to getting people of color, low to moderate income people on bikes. They want to be on a cool bike. They want to look good when they ride. So we had to create something that was very unique, something very stylish, something very energetic. And so we're just starting that process. We built one prototype. We're still looking for funding. We're still tweaking the design. In an ideal world, by next summer, the library the first one will be in Pullman. It'll be established, and you'll be seeing people riding our bike.
And you'll be able to buy them retail as well?
Yes. We'll definitely sell them at a premium price.
Well, I would add to that again speaks to one of the larger problems we have here in Chicago, and a lot of the divestment and the offshoring of the manufacturing process is very difficult to do a low cost. I'm on the low cost side, and it's very difficult for us to do that locally. And so we've been thinking of ways to do it, maybe with collaboration with some of our community partners that have community organizations that maybe help to do school to work type of training. And like we've worked with the organization Chicago Women in the Trades. We're hoping that we could maybe do something with a local community group that may be able to provide us with some lower cost labor and exchange for learning some skills that they may not have grasped, through other manufacturing processes, and maybe incorporate that into a program that would allow us to do it. So we could possibly bring the cost of the bike down a little bit, but that's down the road a little bit.
Any other questions? Yes.
So Jamal, my question I guess is related to Jamal's.
Mm-hmm.
Will you at any point have a bike repair training program, bike customizing program?
Yes. Yeah, we would love to. That would be a part of the bicycle library.
Okay.
Yep, that's part of our vision.
Cool.
Is a one-stop shop. You can rent a bike, you can get your bike fixed. It's a program for young people to come and learn skills, learn job skills, soft skills. We see ourselves as in some ways as a social service agency, helping young people develop.
So, and for the communities that don't have cafes or restaurants, would you guys ever do a food truck thing? Like have food trucks ready when your bikers roll up?
So we
or neighborhood lemonade stand?
Right.
Yeah,
we talk about that all the time. Having a cafe or something. It's something that we're thinking about. It's still early days. Yes.
really practically, what kind of infrastructure do you think is most important for like communities which don't have like a bicycle culture at all? What like helps the most?
I think a barrier protected bike lane helps the most, because people who don't ride, they look at us like we're crazy. You gonna ride on the street? And I used to feel like that. I would never ride on the street. This was 10 years ago. I would never ever ride on the street. I put my bike in the trunk and I drove to the lakefront. So yeah, I think a real barrier, not the white little sticks in the ground, a real barrier protected bike lane. And you know, the city's position is that may not be necessary in some neighborhoods, but they're not looking at what it takes for people in the neighborhood to feel safe. They just think like, you know, should it be a low stress street or a street without a lot of traffic? Why do you need a barrier protected bike lane? Well, you need a barrier protected bike lane so people feel like they should ride on the street, because without it, they just think it's crazy. You know, they don't want to have the potential of getting doored or getting hit by a car.
Well, I would say additionally, in addition to the bicycle infrastructure, we need more investment with respect to retail infrastructure, because as I had mentioned, we had a lot of retailers that left the various communities because of a variety of reasons. Like there's beer on the table here. Well, if you go to, almost all of the south side, all of the west side, the communities are dry. So a restaurateur probably won't consider that, because they make a lot of the money off of the alcohol sales. And so if you have a community that's dry with no alcohol sales, it's very unlikely you can get a restaurant to come in, and a full service restaurant to come in. So we need to think about this a little bit more broadly, about how do we get the shops and those local proprietors to come into these communities. And that would definitely stimulate people to walk. I mean, if gas prices go up, people might want to walk, might want to bike to the local shop, but they don't have that option anymore. When in the late 80s and early 90s, they started the move of the big box stores around the city of Chicago, well, the people in these neighborhoods had to drive to those places to get their goods. And it's the same way now. They don't have the local proprietors to shop with, and so they get in their cars.
Yes.
Are you guys able to address at all the problem of barrier riding and not even knowing how? I mean, like adults who don't even know how to ride bikes.
Yeah.
It wasn't available to them.
Yeah, indeed. We haven't had to teach anybody to ride a bike yet. I'm sure we're willing to.
We've had a lot of people that may not have ridden in 30, 40 years.
A lot of folks, you know, they ride as a child. I know I did. I rode as a child, and then as I got a little older, I thought bikes weren't cool anymore. So we get a lot of people who maybe haven't rode in a while. However, they still know how to ride a bike. So when they get there, they can ride.
So you're saying we should start having lessons?
Well, when I was an undergrad, I knew a bunch of people who were my peers that didn't know how to ride bikes because it was just either not culturally the background that they came from, or their parents didn't know how to ride, so they couldn't teach their child. So I'm just wondering how many people out there are interested and would join, but they also, the stigma of, I don't even know how to ride a bike to start with. But if you say you haven't caused that.
Yeah, well, it's something that we should always keep an eye on. Should somebody need to learn how to ride, we're willing to teach you.
I think if there's no other questions, and we're at. Thanks.
We thank you for listening to or viewing our podcast. For more information and for other podcasts, please see our website, divinity.uchicago.edu/podcasts. Copyright, the University of Chicago Divinity School.